In this lecture, we're going to learn how to delete a song from the Firebase application. On the Manage page, every song item has a button for deleting a song. The button, if clicked, should initiate the process of deleting a song. We should carefully consider what to remove from Firebase. There are two locations in Firebase where we will want to remove the song: the file in the storage and the document in the database. After we've removed the file from both locations, we'll remove the song from the page. This will let the user know the song was successfully deleted. The first step is to listen to the click event on the button. Open the composition item component file. There are two sets of div tags inside this component. The inner contents of the first div tag have two buttons. The first button is for deleting the song. On this button, listen for the click event with the prevent modifier. We'll want to execute a function after it's been clicked. The name of the function will be called delete song. Next, let's define the function inside the methods object. I've made the function asynchronous because we'll be making requests to Firebase. Requests are typically asynchronous. In the function, we can start by deleting either the song in the storage or database. It doesn't really matter in this case. We'll start with the storage. A reference will need to be created if we want to interact with a file in the storage. For best practice, we'll create two references. One reference for the root of the storage and another for the specific file in the storage. The storage object needs to be imported if we want to create references. At the top of the script block, update the import statement for the Firebase object to include the storage object. Back in the function, create a variable called StorageReference. Set it to storage.ref. Then, we'll make a reference to the song. Create a variable called SongReference. Set it to StorageReference.child. The child method will create a reference relative to the reference it's called on. It has one argument, which is the path relative to the reference it's being called on. This is the same thing we did when creating the song. Pass in the following: songs / this.song.original name. We stored the file with its original name. It's important that we're using the original name property. We don't want to use the modified name property because the user can freely change it. If we were to use the modified name property, we may receive an error, or even worse, an incorrect file may get deleted. References come with a method called delete. As its name suggests, this will delete the file from the storage. We'll call it after defining the song reference. It's an asynchronous task. We'll add the await keyword before it. This function will delete the MP3 file from the storage. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the Delete Files documentation page. Deleting a file is pretty straightforward. Firebase doesn't give many details besides showing you how to perform a deletion. The delete method returns a promise for handling their response. There is one thing that isn't properly documented. The rules need to be adjusted to allow users to delete their files. The code we have won't work because we haven't written the rules for deleting a file. In the resource section of this lecture, I provide a link to the Storage Security Rules documentation page. There's a section called Granular Options. This section will tell you that you can create rules for different actions. They don't have to be so broad. You're not stuck to using the read and write rules. Currently, the rules we have will reject the request to delete the file. To better understand, let's examine the rules we have in the storage. In the Firebase console, navigate to the rules for the storage. The write rule has three conditions. We're checking for authentication, size, and MIME type. If none of them pass, the user will be rejected from writing to the storage. Deletion is considered a part of the writing process. So any files that get deleted will need to pass these rules. We'll never be able to delete a file because we're not sending a file. The request.resource property we're using in the rules will be empty. Therefore, the size and content type properties will be blank. The request will be rejected because both rules can't pass. We can resolve this by defining the delete rule. After the write rule, we can add the delete rule by adding the following: allow delete. The condition we'll want to perform will be the same as the first condition for the allow write rule. We're lowering the requirements for deleting a file. The only thing we want to check for is if the user is authenticated. If they are, we'll let them delete the file. That should take care of deleting the file from the storage. Publish the changes for them to take effect. The next thing we'll do is delete the data from the collection. Go back to the editor. In the function, we're going to need to select the document for interacting with it. We'll use the songs collection function to select the document with the document function. This function will need the ID of the document. We can access the ID by using the following: this.song.documentID. This is the same thing we did in the update function. The main difference will be the action that precedes this method. We can delete a document by calling the delete function. This function will return a promise. We'll want to add the await keyword before calling the function to wait for the request to be completed. There's one last thing we'll do in the function. The song will still appear on the list because it's in the uploads array. It will need to be removed. This is where things will get tricky. We are in a child component. We don't have access to the array. We only have access to a single song. Luckily, we have an idea for how we can delete the song from the child component. We can solve this issue by creating a function in the manage component. The function will be passed onto the composition item component for deleting a song. Switch over to the manage component. Search for the composition item component in the loop. We are going to send a function to the composition item component. We will bind a property to the component called removeSong. Its value will be a method called removeSong. This method doesn't exist in our manage component. We will define it in the methods object next. The job of this method is to remove the song from the array. We can accomplish this with regular array methods. First, we need to know the index. The component will provide us with the index. We'll add it as an argument to the method. Inside the function, we will add the following: this.songs.splice I1. The splice function will remove items from an array. We are using it to remove the song. The last thing we need to do is call this function from within the composition item component. Switch over to it. We are going to modify the props. We're going to add the remove song prop. The type for this prop will be function. It'll be a required prop. We can finally invoke this function. Back in our delete song method, we will call the this.removeSong function where we will pass on the index prop. Let's give things a test. Refresh the manage page in your browser. Next, click on the delete button for any of the songs. After a few moments, the song will disappear from the list. In the Chrome Developer Tools, we won't receive errors in the console or network panels. This is great. The requests seem to work fine, especially the request for deleting the file from the storage. By updating the rules, Firebase allowed the file to be deleted from the storage. Let's verify things in the Firebase console. Go to the database. Under the songs collection, the song we deleted shouldn't be there. Next, check the storage for the file. It has been removed from there too. That's great. We've successfully deleted a song from the database, storage, and page. We can wrap things up in the next lecture.